when it comes to the situation for women, I know it's still not great. I know it was not good, terrible when we were young. And as I said, I think ballet is probably the worst example of that. But the message that I want us to send, and I know the message that you're sending and the example that you're setting is life is better if you don't have to starve yourself.
Oh yeah.
You feel better, you look better, you're happier if you try to build yourself up instead of break yourself down. Today we're here with Shelley Hancock Wells. You may have seen the episode I did with Josh Wells. So this is Josh's wife. She works at Starting Strength Houston. She's been around Rippetoe a long time as well. She's been a starting strength coach for a while. She is a lifelong athlete. She's got some good stories to share, and she has a very unique perspective as a lifelong female athlete, especially one that's around my age, and the things that the cultural stuff that we dealt with as children, especially women, and kind of the negative expectations, I guess is the way to put it, that society had on women, especially female athletes. So I thought this topic was important because I by no means am connected to pop culture in 2022, but I imagine there's still plenty of issues when it comes to society's pressures on young people and especially women. And I remember seeing those issues firsthand growing up. So Shelley, let's first define the problem. I mean, you were a ballerina when you were young. You dealt with the unfair expectations of perfectionism. I imagine that came along with some eating issues, some body image issues, a bunch of negative stuff that it seems like you've overcome really well as an adult. And now you're strong as hell. I'd actually like to start there. So what are your PRs? And then let's talk about the problem that I mentioned, and I want to hear how you might define that. And I'm curious how you've solved it and what you might recommend to people that are dealing with the same thing.
PRs. We'll talk about prior to baby. Nothing like super big, let's say, compared to strong people, but it's all relative. In the past, 300 is my all-time one rep max. I have hit 250 or squat, on squat. I've also done 250 for 3x5. That was a big goal for me. And then I probably could have done a heavier single at that time, but I hit my goal and moved on. Press 125, bench 185, I believe. And deadlift about 305. Deadlift's never really been my biggest thing. Olympic lifting, I enjoy doing that. And Actually, my best power clean and jerk was last year at our Starting Strength conference, Starting Strength Gyms conference at 85 kilos, and snatch around 67 kilos, but enough to have fun with it.
At what body weight, by the way, roughly were these PRs set? Because you said they weren't impressive, but 300-pound squat for a woman your size is pretty damn impressive as far as I'm concerned.
That was quite a few years ago, probably around 150 right then, 48 to 150. Now I've settled around 145. That's kind of where I can get my weight up a little bit, but I have a really tough time sustaining a heavier body weight. At this point, postpartum, 5'5.5", and a little bit of hair that people.
A big poof of hair as well.
Yeah.
So let's dive straight into the topic. I would love to hear how you define the problem that I alluded to. What is the issue from your perspective? And I'd also like to hear about your personal experience.
Oh, it's multifactorial. Looking now at social media and the things that are out there, there's so many unattainable things. You can go into postpartum and training during pregnancy. I struggled as with an athlete mind during pregnancy of feeling like I needed to fulfill this athleticness and training during pregnancy that I unfortunately had difficulty with due to prolapse and some other complications that did not enable me to train as I would. I mentally struggled with that a lot, and then postpartum recovery. And it's because you see all these fit pregnancies and stuff. And that's, as a coach, I was like, I felt that I needed to be in that realm of, this fit pregnancy. Um, Prior to that would have been just years of ballet and the expectations that are never really attainable. As with any sport you get into, think of like what percentage of people really make it to the elite level. It's very, very small. And as a ballet dancer, I never really was going to, I had the talent to make it as a professional, but we were trained as though we were going to become professionals. You can go into small ballet companies and they're trained with just as much rigorous training mentally and physically as you would any other ballet company. And the issues that evolve from that are no different whether you become a professional or not.
So contrast your ballet days with when you started lifting. Compare those two cultures for me, and and what the impact was on you psychologically.
Not really comparable, being honest. We all know Rip. I mean, weightlifting, I say, I'm very passionate about what I do, what we do, because as many other people, like it changed my life. It put me down a better route. I don't know what I would be doing now if it weren't for starting strength and, becoming a coach and having this, the family that is involved with this. Having been someone who has trained for something my entire life, when I finally walked away from ballet, I was pretty lost. I was like, there was no goals. I'd go exercise, I would do things. I was struggling with school, with, what I want to do with my life, alcohol, lots of unhealthy things that I was turning to. And when I found strength training and RIP, it was a home that welcomed me. I was not judged. I mean, I know we may make fun of people that are super skinny, and but RIP has a fun way of trying to force you to eat that didn't it doesn't make you feel bad. And then it gave me a goal, getting stronger. It finally, it became more important than not eating. And as I ate and got stronger, my body miraculously started doing things I'd wanted it to do for my entire life. I gained lean muscle mass. I was lean. I had muscle. I looked good. I'd be lying if I didn't have a fit of, throwing my clothes out of my closet. Josh was there and I was, angry because I couldn't fit in my jeans anymore. My like size, 0 or 2 jeans because, and it was, it was a little angering in the moment, but go buy next size up, and you sure fill them out a little bit better. And they sure do look a lot nicer. And since then I've maintained a healthier, fitter, body that I'm happier with for years. I mean, it's been 15 years or shoot more that I've maintained it and I feel good. I feel like I look good, at least for me. I'm not afraid to look in the mirror. Talk about with ballet, you're trained to look in the fault and what's wrong and everything, whether it be movement patterns or how you look. And, I don't see that anymore. Or if I do, it's minimal and I know, it's nothing that I'm going to, focus on. And I see the positive.
Sounds like you come a long way.
Yeah.
So let's talk about food in particular. What is the food culture around ballet? I mean, we all have our impressions as outsiders, which are not good from my point of view, and contrast that to the food culture surrounding starting strength.
Well, they're not really feeding ballerinas steaks and stuff, maybe. In some companies, they do have good education. With ours, there really wasn't any. There was a lot of eating disorders, very, very much disordered eating, disordered exercise. Because we would have a little party and they'd order us pizza. We'd have that, but then, expect us to get on a scale, the following week and, look at our weight or look at us in the mirror or, comments about how you look. These are young girls. They're very impressionable at that age. It's not, anything healthy. My mother was a dancer, so there was really no difference at home. It was kind of you do what you got to do to, to get where you got to be with that. So there's really no, not say there wasn't support, it just didn't acknowledge it as an issue because she had grown up with that and that was, her way of life as well. Strength, I remember going to rips and training, and once I realized that I could eat and I wasn't going to get fat, like there's let's see, what's the fast food place. Dairy Queen would right across from Rips. We'd go and get like chicken poppers. I'd go be eating cheeseburgers. And Rick would have us out. He'd try to stuff, I still don't want to eat like bloody meat, but he would try to stuff some really rare, steak down my mouth and make me eat. But it was fun. I got to, for once in my life, got to enjoy food, not focus on the food I was eating. It didn't matter. I could eat things and, realize that like nothing bad was going to happen in my body. And it fueled my body for the training, and was able to get stronger.
What was your body weight when you were doing ballet?
Oh gosh. Probably around 115 to 120 maybe.
Right.
Which is higher than I would have wanted it to be. Puberty happens, and just things. It's only so skinny you could be, but it fluctuated a lot because there's a lot of starving and binging, and with that, it's inconsistent. You look super skinny, and they're like, oh, you look great, but then you go binge or go drink alcohol, and you're going to gain body fat. There was a time where I was gaining body fat, and then there's a lot of alcohol drinking and things to deal with me finding unhealthy ways to deal with the pressures that I put on myself. It's.
Yeah, the reason I ask is because I think ballet is the most extreme version of this dynamic that I'm talking about, where it applies to men now too. I mean, watching people on steroids in movies like Thor is probably not a good thing for a young, skinny guy to see. Unless he knows about starting strength. And even then, these body image types are totally unattainable. They're a mixture of steroids and training and maturity and, the everything, right? Genetics. But when it comes to the situation for women, I know it's still not great. I know it was not good, terrible when we were young. And as I said, I think ballet is probably the worst example of that. But the message that I want us to send, and I know the message that you're sending and the example that you're setting is life is better if you don't have to starve yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You feel better, you look better, you're happier if you try to build yourself up instead of break yourself down. And I think the fitness industry at large is all about something you mentioned in your email to me in preparation for this conversation, which is punishment, right? So you must atone for your sins. If you ate that pizza or you went drinking on the weekend, you then have to starve yourself. You have to do as much physical activity as possible. You've got to burn those calories, and it's almost a punitive thing. It's a negative punishment oriented thing. And what I love about what Rip has built and what we're trying to do is strength training is the opposite of that. When you train for strength, you want to build yourself up. You don't want to be in a catabolic state where you're chewing up tissue. You want to be in an anabolic state where you're growing tissue. To be in an anabolic state, you need to eat at a caloric surplus. You have to eat in a way that facilitates training. So the way in which you have to eat matches the goal that you're trying to achieve. And the goal that you're trying to achieve is to become a better version of yourself, to become more of yourself, not less of yourself. So I know you have a lot of experience with that, and I would just love to hear your thoughts on it in general, and I'd love to hear any advice that you have for people that are struggling with this, and especially those that are watching this and have not started strength training yet and are used to this standard fitness industry message and are hopefully looking for some good reasons to escape it and to start something better and something new.
Yeah, it's tough to escape it. You think, how many people? You go look at any random run-of-the-mill gym, you've got people, screwing around, and I've done it, go and screw around for hours, accomplish nothing, or the little things they wear that like track their steps and how many calories they burn. Like, you'll eat some shit meal, you're never going to burn the calories. Like, it doesn't really work that way. The amount of work you'd have to do to offset, 1,500 calorie or more burger is just, it's ridiculous. But the mentality of it, like the exercise, now like I enjoy training. It is my therapy. Not being able to train is not, I don't feel good when I can't train, besides, I physically hurt, but mentally, it makes me feel good. But exercise in the past, for a lot, they use it for a form of punishment. I mean, how many people has heard someone say, well, I ate this, so, I can't eat something later, or I got to go exercise and go walk, because I did this or I did that. It's a never ending, but you're never going to get anywhere with it. I don't know a single person who strength trains as a form of punishment for eating something.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, that is their that's their reward. They ate something, so they get to go train, and they get to finish their workout. Their punishment is when they don't eat and they can't finish their workout because they're not fueled enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens. We have it's sometimes you have to let it happen with a client that doesn't eat enough, and I'm like, at some point, it may be day one, it may be day 5, you will not finish your workout. You will get to your deadlifts, it may be before that, and you will not be able to finish it. There's nothing you can do, and it happens, and they're like, well, shit, like, yeah, you're right, or they're lightheaded, and I'm like, well, what'd you eat? Well, they ate 10 hours ago, had a piece of toast, like, and that helps drive. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to add some more, add something. We've had clients there's a client, Katie, that started out as a vegan that in time actually started adding stuff and adding meat. And now he is no longer a vegan. He has put on, healthy muscle mass, and he is getting strong, and he's doing great. Nothing against the vegans. He just wasn't able to get enough calories to put on muscle and to get where he wanted to be.
Right.
And that became important enough for him to add what he needed in. Then I had a client yesterday I was talking with, and I hope to get him to write this down, and I hope I can say it as he did, because I was like, this is a very powerful. But he was someone that, he's like, this has changed my life. And I was like, tell me more about that. And he was like, the pain of doing nothing finally became worse than the pain of starting something. That may not be exactly how he said it, but pretty close. And I was like, that's pretty powerful. Think of how many people that are in pain every single day, whether it be overweight or, back pain or injuries or this or that, how many people are sitting around just hurting all day long, but it's so hard to get started with something, and I hate for someone to get to that point before they're willing to start something. I was like, people need to hear that, but we can help them.
Yep.
And barbells are scary. We talk to a lot of people. JD and I go to, Rotary meetings and different things and present. And it's been interesting to, how each little presentation gets a little bit better. How the questions, it's hard to drive questions sometimes from these groups because, these people, and JD is a very large guy, so he's a little bit intimidating to some people. And you have somebody that stands up that's 70 and they're like, well, can I do this? And we're like, well, absolutely. Like but it's so you say barbell and they're like, oh, I can't do that, and it's such a, I don't even know, I'm like, why not? And explaining it is, and showing it, but, we show pictures, we show, studies, this case study Josh briefly talked about there, buddy, we'll get to see soon. That's pretty miraculous.
It's interesting that the barbell is the thing that people find scary, because from my point of view, the barbell is kind of irrelevant. What's important about all this is the objective. It's like you've got this human biological machine. It's a very sophisticated machine. It it keeps temperature, it maintains homeostasis. It must be exposed to stress in order for it to survive and adapt to its environment. And we find ourselves living in this totally artificial world where we can get by with just sitting on our asses all day and staring at our screens. And if we do that, the body's so resilient that it'll hold on for as long as it can. But the body's also very efficient, so it's not going to waste energy maintaining tissue that's not being used or adapting to stresses that aren't being presented to it. So ultimately, it's like, well, how do we solve that problem? How do we manage the situation? So how do we take this life of comfort and access to everything we need whenever we need it? No struggle for the most part, especially in this country. And how do we artificially add stress in a safe and meaningful way? And more importantly, in a way that provides an outcome that is desirable? How do we, as I mentioned at the outset of this podcast, how do we build ourselves up instead of trying to break ourselves down? So if you're overweight and you're sedentary, or if you're a young gal like Shelley was and you're not happy with your body image, the solution isn't punishment. The solution is progress. And the way that you make progress is you establish a baseline of where you're at right now, and then you train 48 hours later and you add a little bit more weight. And then you repeat the process over and over and over again. And you fuel yourself during that process so that you can recover from the training stress and you can become more of yourself. You can become a better version of yourself. And I think that's a powerful message. And I think it's a message
Yeah.
that more people need to hear. And the culture is changing. I see more and more people using barbells in the gym every day. And again, the barbells are relevant, but it just so happens to be the tool that we have available that's the best tool for the job to solve this problem in an
Yeah.
optimal way. So in that sense, the barbell is relevant, but people are kind of missing the point when they look
Mhm.
at what we're trying to do through the lens of, okay, this is just, moving a barbell around. Yes, but why? Why are we moving a barbell around? We're moving a
Mhm.
barbell around because that is the implement that is best designed to help you use all of your muscle mass in a natural movement pattern, load that movement pattern, and then progressively overload that movement pattern to force your body to adapt to something other than sitting on the couch. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm glad that you're doing this for your clients in Houston and in Katy. I'm glad that you have gone through this process yourself and you're no longer trying to be around 100 pounds and you're getting closer to 150. And I'm glad you found all the mental peace that comes along with that. But I still would like to hear more. So what can you share about the day-to-day struggle, or I guess a better way to put it is where is your head at? What's going through your mind when you're a young athlete and you're attempting to be perfect? Because one of the links that you sent me in preparation for this conversation was
Mhm.
the burdens of perfectionism, the follies of attempting to be perfect. I kind of wanted to get into the psychology of that. Can you help elaborate?
Mhm. Yeah, best I can. It was a little article I found after having a baby and being stuck. COVID was hit, gyms were shut down. We're in a new town, don't know anybody, so I'm at home for days and weeks, months on end. Alone with my own head. I couldn't exercise or train. Due to pretty severe prolapse postpartum. Hormones, that's a whole other thing. Dr. Whitmer was really wonderful with helping me with that side of it, just to enable me to get back to training and recovery. So I was just, doodling on the internet, trying to, ease my mind because I was reverting back to thoughts from the past. I can't go exercise, I can't go train, I can't do any things. I'm taking care of this child. I'm not lucky to get in the shower. It's I lost control, I guess, if anything. A lot of it comes to, you want to control everything, even if you don't realize it. It's, the food is a control aspect of everything. And I had no control over anything. The little child had control of my life. So I found that little article, and it was probably explained more about how my brain works in one simple little article than any person I've ever reached out for help in the past, with trying to, get my life in order when I was going down, not so great paths. And the talking about the perfection, the ideal of trying to attain something that's not really attainable. It's just kind of never ending because you can never get there.
Hmm.
And how you do it, the at no cost. And I see this with athletes when I worked in sports medicine. It's not just ballet. You've got young athletes that are willing to do anything and everything in that moment to try to get that scholarship or try to get to that next step. That it's some of them are never going to get there, and they put aside their studies and everything just to do whatever they can, whether it be steroids or starvation. Plenty of young female athletes do that stuff just to attain a certain look or to get where they think that they need to within their sport. And coaches often just have a blind eye to it. So it's really it goes around with in anybody that they put the pressures on themselves to do it. But then you're not supposed to necessarily show that you're doing the work.
Hmm.
As a ballet, there's all this work behind the scenes, and even as dancing, your one part of your body is doing a lot of heavy, athletic work, or the other part is supposed to show the softness and not show the work that you're doing.
Hmm.
The pleasant look on your face. You smile, but you're, hurting everywhere.
Yeah. I think a
Don't show
ballerina's
the,
feet tell the whole story, right?
yeah,
Wrapped in these
don't,
perfect little, cutesy pink shoes, and then underneath those shoes are bruised and battered toes, and just a mess of all the stress and constant striving for perfection.
yeah. And for me, a flaw was, I had that train at no cost. Injuries don't matter. Wrap them, tape them, So I would cover horse limit all over my hips to try to just mask the pain to get through rehearsals, to get through stuff. There was no, there's no missing. You don't miss, you don't rest is not, like we maybe got one day a week off. And then I was typically going and exercising to do more on those days to try to get ahead. You do more work, you may get ahead of the next person. And there's a point where you can't anymore. Physically, mentally, you just can't do it.
Yeah, you're not recovering either.
No,
You're putting all the stress on your body, and there's no fuel to repair. So you're continually breaking yourself down.
Yeah, and there's no food. It's caffeine pills, diet pills, whatever you can get your hand on to, make it through class. It's nothing that's good for yourself to do that. And it's just a terrible thing. I struggled at school because I would go to school and all I would think about was needing to go exercise or, get out there so I could go do something before class or do early so that I could, show that I'm doing more work than somebody else to maybe get that better part, And this is all for like a few performances a year, like maybe, 6-7 months of stuff for, just a few moments on stage. But, you get that gratification on stage, then it starts all over again.
You mentioned training every day. Or practicing every day. And one thing I like about one of the many things I'm a fan of, obviously, when it comes to this program is it's 3 days a week, unless you're on a 4-day split. So you can become a better version of yourself without having to be neurotic, without having to make going to the gym part of your everyday existence. This is the means to the end. It's not the end itself. And the nice thing about training is that it's tied to a program, and a program is a plan. And the plan means you don't do more than the plan or less than the plan. You do the plan. And what I've noticed throughout my athletic endeavors, whether it's Muay Thai or, attempted bodybuilding stuff with no understanding or CrossFit or all the stuff I've dabbled in, is that it just seems like the answer is just more and more and more go, go, go. And it doesn't matter if you're hurt, beat up. They're not thinking in terms of stress recovery adaptation. And when you're young, you can subject yourself to this stuff, but you will accumulate problems like I have. And I hope youth culture changes. I hope we have more Chase Lindleys and fewer younger versions of me and you, for example. And I hope that people that have made it, to their 30s and beyond, that still haven't figured out that death by cardio and starvation is no way to live, will eventually determine that you can achieve your potential by growing. And I know the word growing is not a word that a lot of women want to hear, but it's a word that you've embraced. And you are sitting living proof that growth is positive, even when it comes to things that a lot of people, women especially, are concerned about, things like aesthetics. Growth is better in basically every sense, provided it's the right type of growth, which is lean body mass and not excess fat tissue.
Yeah.
So talk to me about your weight gain journey and when you started putting on some pounds. And you mentioned that you came to the conclusion that eating was actually good because it helped you facilitate progress. What was it like to go from ballerina, beating the hell out of yourself, not eating, to, okay, I'm getting comfortable with throwing away my jeans and buying new ones, and I'm going to keep this process going because it's positive. What was that process like, and what were the aha moments for you?
Well, it was definitely not overnight. And Josh and I have known each other since high school. It's his fault I'm here and still doing this, as far as getting into starting strength and, me meeting Rip. It was probably long and enduring. There's plenty of days where, and I do this with clients now, where I would be, I didn't want to sit still between sets. I do a set of 5 and I'm off, run around the gym doing silly shit and just Rip's like, sit the fuck down, like rest. I'm like, but I gotta go do something. Or he'd catch me in the back stretching and he's like, why are you doing the splits? I'm like, because I always have, that's just, I don't know. He's like, why you don't need to do that anymore. And I'm like, but, and it's just a training of, something that's been instilled in you for years. I mean, from a child. I mean, no matter what you do, I'm like, it was, I mean, probably a couple of years of, I don't need to do that stuff. Then as I got stronger, I don't need to do that. I enjoy my days off. I almost love my days off more than I do my training days. I'm like, I don't have to do anything today. Like, I can be lazy. Even squat, like, it's wonderful. You get to train really hard, or work really hard for a set of 3 to 5, and you get to sit your ass down. Like, it's awesome. It's awesome to be able to take a day off, spend time with family, even now with a child. But I get to spend time with my son. I don't need to be in the gym for 3 hours. I can't be in the gym for 3 hours. Postpartum now, I've definitely learned that I can do a lot more in a short amount of time. I'll say anybody that knows me, I've never really been described as a person who is early or on time for anything. I'm always, piddling around. I'll spend 3 or 4 hours in the gym, not training the entire time. I just enjoy being in the gym. It's social, go do a squat set and go sit down and hang out and talk. And now I usually have about 45 minutes, but I can get it all in. I make it work. But I still only train about 3 times a week. Nice. If I do something on another day, it's, I'll push some chin ups or a little bit of accessory stuff to another day. But that's it. And even now, like I look great. I feel great. I get my little workouts in, and, while he's napping, and then, I get to spend all day with my son, or working or coaching other people. I don't just spend all that time in the gym, and it's awesome. I mean, think of how much time people waste, sitting in the gym doing a bunch of stuff, and they get nowhere with it.
Mm-hmm. How would you describe the physical changes you've experienced? Thinking about your self-image, body image, that type of stuff from ballerina to where you're at now.
Well, ballet, you're not supposed to have an ass. You're trained to, you tuck and lift.
What a shame.
And not that I got a huge ass now, but definitely Josh is always like, I grew that, it's like he takes a little bit of credit for it. And I've taken credit for a few clients, and I'm like, when the husbands are like, yeah. And I'm like, you're welcome.
I'm staunchly opposed to any activity or sport that discourages the growth of the booty. So
yeah, it's, and there's just even genetics. There's only so much you can do. But even, all that stuff wreaked havoc on my low back. I've got chronic back pain and issues with my pelvis and my pelvic floor issues postpartum. I most likely contribute, to the years of ballet and the trauma from that. And, as I can't prove it, but I would likely to say that it's very associated with that. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't want a little booty? It's maybe some people don't, but they don't go squatting.
That's one thing I know about current pop culture. The booty's in fashion. So
it is, yeah. Years ago, it was not. Mm-hmm. I don't remember, trying to show off glutes at school ever in the past. At least now it's kind of, a fad. And women that typically, often don't think they know how to describe what they want. It's often the things they say they want is muscle mass and, growth, the way they want to look when, someone's like, I want to look like that person or that person, I'm like, one, that you're not them. They're going to look like you. They're going to look like a better, healthier version of you. But you're going to have to put some muscle mass on. You're going to have to get strong for that to happen. Somebody wants to go diet down and show that, like, if you don't have muscle mass, there's not going to be anything there. Yep. And, and why not get strong and train 3 days a week? And, you just accidentally start putting on muscle mass and, accidentally start getting a smaller waist and, a little bit of glutes, and clothes start fitting better, and you look and feel better, and you're much more useful. What's wrong with that?
What else could you ask for? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's important for all people to understand, especially women that are worried about body image, is that your body is composed of, broadly, lean tissue and fat mass. So lean tissue is muscle mass, bone, tendon, ligament, water, and then there's your fat mass. So the idea is you want as much lean tissue as possible, really, and you want your fat mass to support adequate training, and you don't want too much fat mass, and you don't want too little fat mass. And that is a much different message than you must lose weight. Because I think a big problem with modern society is just how imprecise it is, the failure to make distinctions. Body weight is not the problem. Body composition is the problem. And when you add up the factors of body comp, you get a total body weight. But if you're focused just on body weight, you're looking at the wrong thing, because And this especially goes for skinny fat people. I remember when I was losing a bunch of weight when I was younger and sick, the more weight came off, the more skinny fat I looked. I wasn't losing fat. I was losing some fat and a whole bunch of
Muscle.
lean tissue. So the message, especially to women, that lean tissue is good, right? Women want to be toned, or at least they did in the 90s pop culture. So what is
Mhm.
tone? Muscle tone means you need to have adequate muscle on your frame with
Mhm.
sufficiently low body fat percentage so that it's visible. And
Yep.
other than so what is the shape? How is the shape of your body determined? Well, your skeleton has a shape to it.
Mhm.
Fat hanging off of your frame has a shape to it, but the shape that you want, the shape you want to improve, is all accomplished via that lean tissue by building muscle mass. So when you get
Mhm.
stronger, you improve your shape, and the body fat thing is a totally separate conversation that can be adjusted primarily through diet and to an extent through
Mhm.
activity.
Yeah. My body's a completely different shape than back in, like, say, the original DVD. I look back and see what I look like, and there's some photos training. Not that I had a bad shape then, but it's not the same body, no, at all. If you were to cut my head off and put the two bodies next to each other from one angle or another, you probably wouldn't know it's the same person.
Yep. Yep.
And
One of my
I
favorite
much
conversations
prefer.
to have with female trainees, especially, is you're probably going to gain about 5 pounds of lean tissue over the course of the next 2.5 months or so. You're going to gain
Mhm.
5 pounds of lean tissue. Your total body weight might be the same, might be lower, might be higher.
Yep.
That's irrelevant. Don't miss a training session for the next 10 weeks. Let's check you out on the scale so I can prove the point that
Hmm.
more muscle tissue is better and gets you closer to your
Hmm.
goals. And then beyond just the superficial aesthetic stuff, it's the optimal way to manage and improve your biological system. You
Hmm.
need to maintain and build bone density. You need to have
Hmm.
physical capability. You need to have the ability to manage blood sugar. You need all the things that come along with putting on muscle mass. So, like I said, I think it's a really important message. I don't think there are enough people sending it. Is there a version of that you use with your members that you'd like to share? Is there anything you'd like to add to what I'm trying to express here?
It's all individual, depending on, it's, when it comes to like women and things, I typically try to talk one on one with them just to get, because they're not super open about it.
Hmm.
If someone's worried about the scale weight, it's, sometimes you just can't get it across to them. Some they're still not going to eat.
Hmm.
Some of them are still not going to do, they gain a couple of pounds, they get scared and they, stop eating. It's tough. It's mental. You have to kind of want the change.
Hmm.
And it's because we'll have some that, may have a spouse, whatever, that, that sees that they're not eating. And it's hard. There's not necessarily a straight answer on that. You've got some that come in, and I've seen women change their lives around.
Hmm.
Not that they were in a bad place to begin, but you have someone that was, maybe a little insecure or quiet, that, now they feel great about themselves. They become outgoing. They're more social. I've seen it make marriages. I've seen it break marriages.
Hmm.
That someone, all of a sudden had enough confidence to stand up for themselves for something they were unhappy with. Was years ago.
Right.
That left the marriage. But it's empowering for women if they just give it a chance.
Hmm.
Whether it be, I'll say, the greatest feeling is just being able to, one, be useful. I remind my husband all the time how useful I am. Whether it be moving into our new house and I can carry things with him, I don't need help. But just to be able to go into a gym, grab a barbell, put it in the rack, and know what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
like, that's huge for someone that may have been scared to walk in and get on a treadmill. It's, and walking into these gyms, like Rip's gym, there's people in the past. I remember a woman that, eventually signed up, and she said she pulled into the parking lot, I think 3 times, and left over multiple days before she finally got out of her car and came in.
Wow.
Like, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Even though it's not, once they walk in, it's not intimidating. That's why here we try to get members, like, come in, come see, come meet our members, come talk to us, come into the gym, because they have this preconceived idea that they're going to walk in and see a bunch of goons lifting weights, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've got all ages, but the clientele is, on that older side. I say older, I include mine in me in the older side is like, 40 plus, but,
Plus,
it's a family. Everybody's in there getting strong. They have a good time, and you have every single person that's in there has a story of some sort, even the coaches. Every coach that does this, there's a reason they do this, that something changed in their life, that they needed this and it changed their life. And like when we're looking for coaches, I'm always like, what's your why? Why do you want to do this?
Nice.
And if they don't have a good why, then, they either need to find it or, maybe move on.
Right.
Because that's what drives it.
It's not going to be a long-term situation without the why.
No, I mean, and that's the passion. Like, I don't need a script to sell it. I'm not selling the program. I'm going to do it. I talk to people, and if I need to share my story, I'll share my story. Mm-hmm. But it's, they can tell that you believe in it, and that's huge. I mean, that's where you get the trust, and that someone's willing to, hand themselves over to you to help them.
Your point about the intimidation factor is an important one. We design these gyms to be very welcoming and aesthetically pleasing and bright. And we knew, we're for all ages, but every business has a target demographic, and we are a 40 plus gym. People that are 40 plus for the most part. There are certainly exceptions that are younger, but they understand the concept of a delayed payoff, and they understand the concept of investing. These are people that have manage their finances well over time. They've accumulated wealth. That's how they can afford to hire a coach. These are people that understand that health is an accumulative process as well, right? So they're in the gym hiring you as a professional to teach them how they can become better 48 hours from now, 96 hours from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now, and then continue that process all the way up until they're relative genetic ceiling, or at least the ceiling that they're able to hit within their schedule. And then they get to reap the benefits of all that improved capability, which comes at the perfect time. Because if you achieve that in your middle age, the slope of the curve in the graph that represents your life and your capability as you progress through life changes. The shape changes. You no longer peak in your mid-20s or maybe 30 and then slowly decline. You might do that and then start a new upward slope when you're 44. And we see that every day. You might start an upward slope when you're 76.
Yeah.
As long as you know that this exists, and as long as you're wise enough to hire someone to help you achieve those results, or to do the research on your own and attempt to do the program by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty incredible to watch people of all ages, but especially the older clientele come in. Like, you'd be amazed to see how much a 70 or even 80-year-old person can attain with, coaching and, getting it. Like, it's awesome, and that's, you just added quality of their life, significantly for, we're all going to die, at some point, but how we get there, we definitely want to, try to make that as most, more enjoyable as possible, and if they can be on their feet, spending time with their grandkids, not in a wheelchair, it's amazing. Yep. And, there's nothing better than that. Like, Josh and I, like, the little time that Josh and I and Chase lived together, it was actually, pretty awesome. Like, I was really worried, and I was like, this little kid's gonna, annoy the piss out of me in my house all the time. But, like, we all live, eat, breathe, sleep this, we work together, we train together, we come home, we talk about it together, we sit around the table and have dinner, and we're all talking about the clients and everything. It's great. It's, people are like, well, you need time off, and I'm like, but we just enjoy it so much, it's hard to step away and walk away, and you're still doing it, you're still talking and preaching and showing people. And I mean, well, people, we're shopping for furniture a few weeks ago, and somebody stopped Josh to say, hey, bro, what do you do? Like, like, he got hit on by a dude, and like, it happens though. And of course, we both had starting strength shirts on, and she had his hat on. I was like, oh, we're decked out in our starting strength stuff. Well, here you go. This is what we do, come by and see us.
Walking billboards.
It's, you are, people want to know what you do. And I'm like, well, I don't do as much as you think I do. It's, to be honest, they think I'm in the gym every single day, or Josh is, I'm like 3 days a week, maybe 4.
Yeah. I get asked, same deal. I get asked a lot. I'm going to EMT school at the moment, and I've been asked by 2 different instructors at the school. Their first question, interestingly, was, how many days a week do you work out? I'm like, that's an interesting question to ask, because what they're essentially asking is, if I want to be muscular, do I need to dedicate my life to the gym? And
Yeah. No.
I go, well, I mean, the program only requires 3 days a week. At the moment, I'm doing twice a week just because of scheduling issues, but it's less than you think. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, they don't understand, they think, you got to do other stuff, or what are you doing at home? Yeah. I think it's just whether our brains are, tuned to want complex things. I don't know, because I do. It's, it's hard. It was hard for years for me to not want complexity. Everybody wants to be an intermediate or advanced, or they think they do. I'm like, you really don't. Enjoy those gains, because once they stop, it's not as fun.
yeah.
But Olympic lifting was one thing that kind of fulfilled that desire, because it's like anytime, like, I don't have to do heavy snatches to go and work on, a technical aspect of a movement. It's athletic. It makes me feel good when I do it. Um, I enjoyed doing that. I mean, partially because Josh did it, but just my brain wants complexity in the movement pattern, as well as I want to think about movements. And that kind of fulfilled that. So, I mean, because snatch and clean, you can watch them with thousands of them, and it's still, there's still going to be things that you learn. I mean, I've been filming bar paths all week, in the garage, as we're looking at, our setup at the floor. Just trying to perfect it ever so slightly, and it's fun. I mean, it's 10 years later, we're still, trying to perfect those. You never really perfect them, I guess. You hit that one special snatch, and it happens once every 10 years.
Yeah, that is one downside of this program. It's extremely monotonous. If you thrive on variety, this might be tough for you. It's tough for me, especially once you get, like, the novice phase is so exciting. You're just, you can see a physical change in yourself every week, and you can see the number on the bar going up every training session, and you're getting better. You're learning the lifts for the first time. You're learning all the details, why chalk is important, why you need shoes, how to use a belt, how to stabilize your spine, all this stuff. And then, point of diminishing returns, both in your progress in technique, and then in your progress in terms of weight on the bar. And then it can really test your patience and commitment to the process. And I know I'm not alone in this, but a lot of us go through the linear progression, maybe become an early intermediate, get distracted, go do some other stuff, realize, like, I don't feel as good, I don't look as good, maybe my back hurts a little more. Okay, I'm going to go back to just the basic stuff. Rinse and repeat that process a few times until you finally get to the conclusion that, all right, starting strength style training, whether it's something out of the gray book or just an NLP, depending on where you're at and how hard of a reset you need, is what I need for the rest of my life to maintain this biological organism in an optimal way. I've certainly proven that to myself time and time again, and I've got plenty of friends, family, and members, clients that have done exactly the same. But yeah, we all have to go through the process and learn for ourselves, especially if you're built like me psychologically. I tend not to take input or advice from many people unless they're clearly domain experts. And even then, I have to prove it for myself. I have to experience it myself to convince myself it's the correct answer. So it's, but yeah, the barbell, I've got a home gym because it's may as well be, it's not quite this extreme, but it's, the next level up on the hierarchy of human needs. Like I'm going to have plenty of food in the fridge and in the freezer, in case there's some kind of supply chain issue. And I'm always going to have my gym in the garage, because no matter what the situation is outside, training is now part of my life, and it's part of my health and my well-being and my capability. And it's central to a positive existence.
Yep. Josh and I just recently moved in the new house, or joking with JD, because the hierarchy of important items is definitely different from the past, which finding a 3-car garage was my, not number one, but pretty high up on the priority list, which was tough, and we found it.
Nice.
So I got more garage gym space, and my vehicle can fit in there too.
You guys are doing great. Young family, both strong, good shape. Coaches at 2 gyms under JD, who's a hell of a guy. Got your baby boy. Sounds like life is going really well for you guys.
Yeah, we've been in this for a long time. There's been good times and bad times. There's plenty of days of struggling, but starting strength, we've been around for the long haul. And here we are working, working less in the gym than we ever have.
Mm.
From in the past working, bookends, 5 a.m. all day long, taking a break at lunch and going back and coaching all night. It's for years. Now we just, either a morning shift or an evening shift. We've got, little stuff on the outside, and we get time with the family. We can afford a nice home, a nice life. It's pretty great.
Not a bad
Um,
gig.
yeah, we've got it great. I'm not going to necessarily talk about JD too much because everybody else already has. He knows how wonderful he is. Him and his family have been great, just enabling us this opportunity to come down here and help, grow the Houston area.
Mm.
It's pretty great. I'm saying there's not been a bad day since we've moved down here,
Damn.
and that's pretty awesome to say. I mean, we've all get along. There's never been, if there is an issue, it's, everybody's on discussing it immediately. We work as a team. This is, now between both gyms. It's a really happy family, and I'm excited to do whatever I can to help continue to grow it, here and everywhere else.
Yeah, that's something you mentioned in your email to me that I wanted to ask you about. Your desire to protect the brand. Can you articulate that for me? What do you mean by that, and why is protecting starting strength so important to you?
Well, as with when anything grows, I've seen this with other businesses in the past too. When you grow, there's always a potential to lose what makes it so special. You start expanding, you've got more people, and that can't be the case. Coaches have to be what they are supposed to be. You need to be able to walk into any starting strength gym anywhere in the U.S. and hopefully in the country at some point, and you're going to get the exact same quality. That's why it's so tough to pass. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's going to put the work in.
Yeah, I like the fact that our certification is managed by the Asgard company, and then the franchise company is a separate company, because that prevents a conflict of interest. It means that the standards for coaching are set by an entity other than our own. So we might have an incentive economically, financially, to reduce the quality of coaching in the gyms, and we do. But the way we avoid being seduced by that incentive is by thinking big picture and long term, firstly, and then secondly, by having that counter incentive built into our structure, which is we do not certify our own coaches. We do not determine if the people in our gyms are capable of teaching others and coaching others in this model. The company that built this model is the entity that's responsible for determining if these people are adequate. And we've had case after case after case of people that we want to succeed, that we want to become SSCs, that we expect to become SSCs, that fail and fail repeatedly. In fact, Chris Race, the physical therapist PhD guy I had on the podcast a couple weeks back, he and I were talking about how he's getting ready for his platform exam to become an SSC. I know he can do the academic side. And he's been apprenticing at one of our gyms, and he failed.
Yep.
And that's super common. I mean, shit, Andrew Lewis, I think he took 4 or 5 attempts on the platform exam, and it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how badly we want you to be an SSC. All that matters is on the day of the platform exam, can you catch what the seminar staff coach is catching who's standing right next to you? And can you get the lifter to correct that mistake right now? You either can or you can't. And this is the ultimate equalizing force. Your title, your wealth, who knows you, who likes you, what you've accomplished in the past, none of that matters. You're on the platform and you're either performing at the level of a starting strength coach or you're not. And if you're not, you can't pass. And that pisses a lot of people off sometimes, but this is the only way we uphold the standard as this thing grows. And we will grow as slowly or as quickly as we need to. But one thing we will not do is compromise on that standard. And now we're lucky to have your help and Josh's help and JD's help as, people that have opened the 3rd gym in the entire franchise and people that have been around RIP for a long time, you and Josh especially, to mentor other coaches and to mentor other gym owners and gym managers so that they can not only excel in the way that you all excel from a coaching point of view, but from a business operations and member experience point of view as well. So I'm glad that you guys are around.
Yeah, the member experience is super important. And I think back to when Josh and I were living in New York City and we started doing the starting strength camps up there. we would do these camps, and you've got the Rip fans and stuff, everybody, and Josh can do a good, maybe not as good as Brent does, a pretty good Rip impression now. I say he might be, but he has Josh has, similar behaviors and how he talks. I mean, you're around people all the time, and someone that you're going to take on, like, like Josh usually has a more foul mouth when he's around Rip a lot. But they loved it. They love the Rip stories. They want to know what it's like to be, around Rip. And it was hard sometimes to get things accomplished in these camps because they just wanted to talk about Rip, and what it's like to be at Rip's place and go to Rip's gym, and he's just Rip to all the people that are, there that, he's all famous and stuff. But he's a great person. The people that are close to him know, Rip doesn't like us, when we say all mushy gushy stuff about him, but, he truly cares about every single person. That's why he does this. He enjoys helping people. He's a little gruff on the outside, but, he's the first person that would be there to help any of us if we needed it for anything.
Yeah. And if you were here listening to you say all these things, he'd cut you off and not let you finish what you were about to say.
Yeah. You can't say any of that stuff to him. He's, he shut the door in your face. He's, but
he doesn't want to hear that shit. But he's not here, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, so we'll talk about him. But he helped me. He's the reason, any of us are where we are with this, and it's, truly, physically, mentally, my health, my life, everything. I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for this, and now it's, and now it's, we get to do this and share it with everybody else. It's, as I said at the end of that, I've been saying for years, we're going to change the world. We are slowly, for some people we have. I think, we'll get there with more people. Yeah. It's just more education and, sharing this and getting more people to do it and give it a try.
All we have to do is show this to people that are bought in and know that it can help them in a meaningful way. Blow them away in terms of their expectations when they make more progress than they ever thought possible. And then tell as many people as possible about it, which is kind of the purpose of this podcast and also the purpose of all the stuff we publish to YouTube and to startingstrength.com and to social media. Because if the average person knew what this program could do for them by seeing what it does for other people, and this no longer was a hidden secret, this was part of popular culture, so many more people would have much fewer problems and would have such a better existence, such a better day-to-day time when it comes to experiencing life. And all we can do is we're not some massive behemoth with millions of dollars to spend on marketing, but we've got 1,000+ members now. We can give these people phenomenal outcomes. They're going to tell their friends and family. We'll build more gyms. We'll tell the stories online. And the thing will continue to spin up, and then we will change the world in our own small way. And I do think that we will have a meaningful impact on popular culture. I do think that strength is already becoming part of popular culture. The barbell is already part of popular culture. Being fit is already part of popular culture. We just so happen to have a way that brings all those things together that's really simple and better than what else is out there. And not many people know about it yet. So we'll keep working on it.
I think just more talking, and it is. If somebody signs up, 3-6 months down the line, their life has changed. They bring in, family, and then they bring in family and friends, and that's how it works with anywhere that we've been. But it works. I think Josh and I, the first experience out, leaving under Josh's or under Rip's wing, because anybody that's coached at WFAC, Rip's always looking. He may be in the toilet, he may be in his office, he's always watching it. If you fuck up, he's going to scream at you and yell. And it is pretty damn intimidating having that all the time. We had an opportunity to coach in New York City, and although we knew it wasn't going to be a place that we lived forever, but it gave us an opportunity to work with a lot of people from scratch that had never had exposure to this. And the place we worked at, we were one of a kind, and they had their stuff, but they wanted us to do, and we do a little bit of that, but then we did what we do too. And we're going to do it whether they want it or not. And it worked very quickly. We had clients that had not made progress with various disorders and diseases and things, and years that in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks were better. And we were still learning at the time. I wasn't a great coach. I was still figuring it out. But it worked and people got better. The only problem was they only wanted to work with us from there. And so our schedule was always full, which is great,
How about that?
But, it worked. But if we traveled or left, they couldn't work with anybody else. There was no one else that could coach it,
Hmm.
and they knew it, and that was a problem.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so now I know that I can send my people anywhere as far as strength gym, and they're going to get the coaching that they need.
Yeah, to the extent that I just had a member contact me directly asking if we could improve our policies for training at different gyms because this guy travels a
Mm-hmm.
lot. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the cities he travels to now have a starting strength gym in them. And so
Yeah.
he's having to pay all these drop-in fees when he's visiting
Oh
a gym more
no.
than once. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
cool. We're at a stage now where we have members that are visiting multiple gyms on a regular basis, and having a plan
Mm-hmm.
available for all the gyms is something we should probably consider now.
Yeah.
So
We had two visitors from out of town at Houston this week.
nice. Yeah.
And it's great to, get that and to get, an opportunity to talk additionally to coaches from other gyms,
Yeah.
about their people. I mean, we all talk all the time, but still, it's just the collaboration that goes on between all the gyms. It's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Like, I'll talk, with somebody because I'm going to be the first to tell you if I don't know the answer to
Mhm.
something. I'm not going to make something up. But I was like, we have this vast, community of people. I was like, we'll get the answer very quickly
Mm.
for you, and it's amazing to have that, to reach out. And I mean, our Slack all the time is, somebody has this, this issue or that, has anybody had this, with all, and we all work together to figure it out.
Mm.
I mean, where else do you have that?
The hive mind. Yeah. Well, Shelley, we're running at around an hour. So why don't you cap us off with your favorite Mark Ripito story?
Oh, goodness. Let's see. I guess we talk about the filming. I don't have Josh. They all told all the funny ones. And I don't want to talk about rip pooping because I've never. I mean, so I have walked in, with him being naked and stuff, trying to cover him up, because he doesn't give a crap. um, I'll say the fun. If anything, I'll say the fun old times of hanging around the gym with things that we like to bring. Obviously, the Starting Street gyms we can't have. We don't have space to have a table and chairs. So we're going to go sit around it, and hang out every night at. But late nights at Rips was where all the education and life lessons happened, and some of that was just some of the old films. One of my favorite ones was the orangutan one that they started. I don't even know where it came from. Maybe Steph brought the little orangutan up there. They started placing it in the background of some of the videos, and people were like, "What the hell is this?" And we're like, "We don't know what you're talking about." I don't know where that came.
He
And
denied
Rip's
its
like,
existence.
yeah, and we were in there hanging out one night. Rip come out all pissed because people kept asking how they can power clean with iron plates, and of course we know they can still, but they don't have bumper plates, and he was like, well, let's film a video, do this, and he's like, where's that fucking orangutan? I'm gonna, and I'm filming with this old ass little camera that if you move it, my arms, when I film it, he starts talking, and you don't know what he's gonna do. He's just starts talking. If he messes up, we have to stop and start all over again because we didn't have the editing things that we do now. And I'm just trying to not my hands not go numb and mess it up. And he's like, I'm going to kick that orangutan or do something at some point, And I think it's one of probably the most watched videos still online of watching him kick that stupid orangutan, while angrily telling everybody that they can power clean with iron plates.
You should find that link and send it to me so we can put it in the right above.
Yeah,
so
I'll put it.
Check it out.
Oh, in there. Josh was talking about redoing it. I was like, we need to have somebody like y'all can do it to be silly, but then have Chase sitting in the center there, and have somebody have Rip combine kick Chase, and Chase goes like, but they didn't end up doing that. But yeah, just good times with that. It's amazing to see how far it's come with technology and the ability to do that stuff and filming. Because in the past it was Rip just starts talking, you don't know what's going to happen, and it's late night. We're wanting to go home. I'm tired of it. I don't want to film anymore.
Yeah, you were in the DVDs too, weren't you?
Yeah.
We should probably link to those as well.
Yeah.
Those are classic. What year were those filmed? Was that early 2000s? Because they look awfully 90s.
Oh, 809,
Oh,
I think.
809, yeah.
Yeah, because I was, let's see, it was when I had left I took a job in East Texas for an athletic trainer position, and Rick called and asked if I wanted to be in it. That was kind of maybe back where it started. I mean, I kind of came in, and even as a clinician working with athletic training, I was realizing that I wasn't prepared truly, to be on the field and be the only person there responsible for every injury, element, everything, anything that comes about. You learn these protocols, but they don't always work. and I learned enough, but not enough to apply it. And so when that job's contract ended, I moved back and pretty much just moved into Rip's gym,
Hmm.
and just wouldn't leave. It's really we get these apprentices come in, they want to come in apprentice for an hour or two, and I'm like we were there like 5 a.m. till midnight, whenever Rip was done. You want to go home and eat and come back and hang up. I mean, absorb it. It's I wish I knew the value of what I was experiencing then I do now.
Hmm.
The people like, remember, I think Tommy Suggs come in one time, and Rip was like, "Go get in the truck." And I was like, "I'm training." I was like, "About to train." He's like, "Get in the truck." And I'm like, "Okay."
Hmm.
And I get to listen to them two like chit chat, and I don't even remember what they're talking about now. I'm just annoyed that I missed my workout, and I'm having to ride out to Rip's place, which is like 45-minute drive, and sit out there with them. Like I don't know the company I'm with, and how I should have been like recording every moment of their little discussions and stuff
Right,
to
yeah.
share later on. It's you don't know. But
That would have
anyways,
been fascinating to be on the fly on the wall for that one. Yeah.
yeah, I know. I literally couldn't even tell you what they were talking about because I was just in the back, like, like, why is Rip making me ride with them out there? Like, why is he driving me out there? But you do what Rip says. He tells you to do this, you go do it.
He's trying to teach you something, Shelley. Damn it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I learned, but but to hang out and be friendly,
Yeah.
until I can get back and back to the gym workout.
You learn don't miss training unless Rip tells you to, in which case something important is happening.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks for the time, Shelley. I'm glad that you discovered Rip when you did. I'm glad that you were able to turn your situation around and you are where you are now. I'm glad you met Josh and you guys are building a family. I'm glad you met JD and you guys are kicking ass at the gym and having fun. And I'm glad that you're as staunch of a supporter of the brand as you are, because it's great to have your help as we're trying to grow this thing. So thanks for all that. And thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Ray.
All right. Talk to you later. See ya.
Okay.